You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.
Hey, Christie, we've got a special guest on today's podcast. It's you.
It certainly sounds like it anyway.
We are recording today live from the Podcast Detroit studio, so I better watch my mouth and not say anything stupid. And it sounds like Christie is calling in from Atlanta because she is. So this is a cool new format for us. We are happy to be a member of the Podcast Detroit Network. And I'm here with Bob and Jessica in Studio One. Studio One. This is the big one. This is the mothership.
Studio One.
This is awesome.
That just feels official.
So it's funny. Bob and Dave and I met actually about a year ago, and we talked about doing a podcast. And I was here with Terry Bean, and we were talking about that. And things didn't come to fruition quite the way that we had originally intended it, but I've always kind of kept this in the back of my head as really kind of a cool way to get involved with the Detroit community, to get involved with the podcasting community. And there happens to be available studio space right when we record every week, Christie. So this might be a cool new thing for us.
Yeah, it sounds wonderful. I'd love to see it. And the pictures are amazing. If you haven't checked this out online, you should definitely do so because it's a pretty cool studio. Given that we record in our basements and offices, home offices, it's a nice mix to see something done professionally.
So
not that we aren't professionals, Jeff.
Well, I mean, we're doing it every way we need to be able to do it, right?
Exactly.
So, Bob, we have something in common with Bob in that we're all in sales, and Bob's a great sales guy. We've had a couple of conversations about sales over the past couple of weeks, and Bob's written some articles about that. One of the ones I actually shared a couple of weeks ago called "How Not to Suck at Sales."
That's correct.
That's one of your best performing pieces ever, isn't it?
No, the career lessons we learned from Caddyshack.
Yes, that's my favorite.
Okay, so sales and golf. We've already had a podcast about sales and golf.
Right.
Job description or interview lessons from Caddyshack. You don't even play a whole lot of golf. So where does all that come from?
Caddyshack's by far one of my favorite movies, if not my favorite. If you take Star Wars out of the equation, because it's kind of a given. It's one of those, I caddied when I was 14 and 15 years old. My mother cleaned mansions, and one of the ladies got me in a country club in Detroit, so I kind of lived as a caddy. And then when that movie came out, just,
Oh, good night.
Yeah, and I'm a big one-liner guy, so I mean, it's the quintessential one-liner movie. So
for sure. So, like, how did this whole? I mean, we're in this beautiful studio. How did this whole thing come about?
Good God! So we recorded. So I'm also the host of the IT and the D show, mm-hmm. and I co-own Podcast Detroit. 4 years ago, Dave got asked, or we started 4 years ago, June 3rd or 4th. Dave got asked to be a guest at the Russell for a show on Raw Radio X, talking about our meetup group. So we've been doing meetups since 2001, just for the IT industry. Non-salesy. It's kind of funny. I'm the only sales, we joke I'm the only sales guy that they allow at the meetups because it's my group. But long story short, he got asked to be on this internet radio station. They said, "Hey, you guys are kind of funny. Our Monday night show just bailed, and do you guys want Monday nights from 9 to 11? And we're like, yeah, all right. What's a podcast? We never listened to a podcast before. I don't like Audible books. I'm like Rodney Dangerfield back to school. Like, why read the book? I can watch a movie in 2 hours, So we went and literally, if you ever seen the movie UHF, with the Weird Al, like, hey, Stanley, want your own TV show? Oh, okay. And we meandered into this studio and hit the record button, and we just kind of talked about our group and then we figured me and Dave would, we didn't know what the show was going to be about. Mm-hmm. We knew it was going to be called IT and the D, so we want to do the Detroit tech scene. Me and Dave were like, he's a geek, I'm a sales guy, let's argue. That didn't work. Then we had some QA developers, testers, and that didn't work, so it's too boring. And lo and behold, 200 episodes later, here we sit. This is our third studio. So when the Russell was kind of the Russell's an interesting building, to say the least. That's where they filmed like Batman vs Superman, like all the warehouse scenes, and it's you can't bring executive guests there.
Sure,
it's kind of the same thing with recording a podcast in your basement. You can't bring guests there,
right?
And so a friend of ours said, hey, the room next to my office is open. How about we just build a little man cave? And before you know it, all of our friends from Raw Radio X started calling, saying we want to play by you. And then before we knew it, we were full. So we moved into this building a year. It took a year to fill it, and we've been here a year, and we're up to 90 shows now.
Wow.
So we're sitting in 4 studios in here. We're opening up a new building in Southwest Detroit.
So a satellite location, or are you moving there?
We're okay. Satellite. So we're in the Penobscot right now. We're switching Penobscot to Southwest Detroit in one of the old police buildings.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So you've turned something that you had never even done before into a hobby, into a cottage industry, into an empire.
I mean, 2 years ago, we got signed by Midroll, and we were the 196th show that they signed. So when you look at the Midroll shows, EW Scripps owns them now, but we're sitting next to Mark Maron and Kevin Smith on the list.
Right.
It's just remarkable to me because everyone's like, there's no way this niche within a niche within a niche show got this traction. And I said, well, I beg to differ, because what we did with the group, the meetup group, is, we have 7,000 members in that group that are all IT Metro Detroit. Well, what happened in 2009, everyone scattered. There was a brain drain, right? Everyone had to. So all of our biggest listener pockets after Detroit are Silicon Valley, New York, Chicago, Dallas, Denver, right? All the big IT hubs. And it's just kind of funny, all of the notes we get is, thank you for, I miss home, I had to leave, and thank you for bringing me back. That's the majority of the notes we get from people.
Like expats.
Totally. Yeah.
Wow. That's wild. So, I mean, this thing seems like it just kind of spun out of control in a hurry. I mean, how do you manage that? I mean, you've got kids, you've got a wife who's busy and is a career woman, and I assume she still likes you.
I think so. I think so. I used to play softball. I used to bowl. I used to golf. I loved bowling. That was my passion. I don't do anything anymore. Except for this.
Okay.
This is, my side hustle.
Okay.
Everyone in Detroit needs to have a side hustle. This is mine. So, we record every Monday night. Mm-hmm. There's really not a lot of prep that goes into it. We walk in with a little notebook with little notes, and we don't schedule anything, except for guests that are, to be here. And then we're here a few days a week. But instead of bowling league, I'm podcasting.
Right. Right. And any beer you were going to drink at the bowling alley is just outside in the fridge.
Exactly. Falling Down supplies us with kegs. They make wonderful IPAs.
They do. They're really good.
Yeah, he does a good job.
Their beer is really good. How did that whole thing come about?
So Mark was a guest on our show. Mark Larson, that owns Falling Down Beer Company. And I'm like, Mark Larson? And we worked together at Vario in 99. He was the engineer, and I was the sales puke. And he's still a Citrix engineer, and his side hustle was opening a brewery. So he was sitting in the show, and we were like, oh my God, this is crazy that we run into each other on my podcast. You talking about your new brewery you opened up.
Wow.
So, yeah, small world.
Yeah. No, there's been a lot of that in Detroit, too. A lot of side hustles. A lot of those side hustles being breweries. And, I mean, we've seen some come and go. And beer's a big thing here in Michigan culturally. But,
We've had the majority of them on the show. We're not a beer show. Well, the tagline of our group was always networking Detroit one beer at a time. So we've always everything we've always done has been in a bar. Just because we wanted casual networking. We didn't want, and that was the whole point of starting our group, is it went to too many LBN events and too many chamber events and too many BNI events. One of my favorite things I ever wrote was LBN equals WTF. And I don't get it. I need to distance. I want to network, but I completely need to distance myself from this crowd. So he said, that's been a recurring theme with everything we've ever done, is trying to make things suck less. Mm-hmm. We started the networking group because all the networking groups sucked. There wasn't a tech podcast in town, so we tried to make one suck less. And then we're the only podcast studio in town. I mean, there's a couple that act as like internet radio stations.
Right.
They're live though. They don't syndicate.
Right.
So there's others, a couple other studios in town, but we're the only game in town. So.
Well, and there's something to be said when you find that tribe, right? So it's interesting. I just had a discussion with a client this morning about the value of meetups, and does it pay off to start one of your own, or what happens if I only have 9 or 10 people show up, but they really enjoy that show up every week. And I think this is a great testament to what can happen when you really find your tribe.
We were 4 to 5 people in a bar for a year.
Yeah.
And I got a great answer for you. If someone would ever say that, I never really was successful bringing home a shoebox full of business cards that I didn't follow up with. I'd rather meet 4 of those 9 people and actually have nice conversations and actually have a meaningful relationship / friendship. Then who cares if there's 300 people in the room, just so you can take a selfie and say, look, crowd's packed,
Yes.
That's totally our philosophy though on that.
Absolutely. And isn't that a great segue even into social media today, right? So it's instead of just posting all this stuff to get your name out there, picking and choosing and interacting and creating relationships on social media is where people are actually seeing the value.
Yeah, I mean, we could have a meetup and there we could sit at a table with 3 CTOs and be best friends at the end of it. But if you post a picture of 4 people showed up, it sucks, right? But you don't understand. I just met 4 CTOs and we're going on a golf vacation in 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, I think people underestimate the quality versus the quantity aspect of it.
That's been a big thing that I've been writing about and talking about, and we've talked about it on the podcast before too. I mean, kind of confusing the two, confusing quantity for quality, confusing efficiency for effectiveness, and just because you managed to reach 1 million people allegedly with your tweet, and you even see some of the metrics you scroll through on LinkedIn. Yeah, this post got 13,000 views. Okay, that means it showed up in 13,000 people's scrolls as it saw any daylight on their screen,
right,
which is way different than them reading, engaging, clicking, following, doing anything like that. And but we're obsessed with those numbers, and bigger numbers are better. And I mean, let's look at, like you said, there's only 4 of us, but 3 of them have the ability to write 6-figure POs.
Right. Let's go 8-figure. Let's go.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Whatever. But you know what I mean? Yeah, I never believed in, and then we, right off the bat, we didn't want the poison to destroy our group that would show up at those chamber events. So we wrote a blog series to combat that called Don't Be That Guy. And it's amazing how that's become like our calling card. Is people will sign up on LinkedIn and say, I can assure you I'm not that guy, which I find to be amazing because it weeded out. We don't have to kick people out. We did in the beginning, maybe 1 or 2, an life insurance guy would be real overzealous.
Right.
And I think that's the key though. I don't even care if you do life insurance, just be cool.
Right.
Like people think that when they go to these events, we're not charging money too. You know what I mean? So they're taking their time. They're going to get leads. And it's like, no, you're gonna meet a couple cool people. Like, just my whole take on this is I want to meet 3 cool people tonight. It's not I need business, I need leads. That's garbage. I always talk about things we write because we always put this stuff on paper, but we equated networking and business to dating, called a dating corollary, and it's no different. Then I haven't been on a date in a year, and I'm going to go to the bar and please go out to dinner with me. Right. Please, can I have your number? I haven't, what's going to happen?
What are you saying? Does desperation not work? What?
No, it does not. But like the ones that are like,
that's not a strategy.
No, at least I hope not. But like the people clamoring for leads, or I want to grab them by the. There was honestly my favorite story is there's a kid just fresh out of college, recruiter. Overzealous sales guy, right? He didn't know any better, and we took him to the side and go, "It looks like you're a good kid. Just take it down a notch, man. Right? Just go. This isn't, you'll go that much farther." 3 months later, he comes back and said, "Hey, I took your advice. The next event I went to, I think I got 3 customers out of it.
Right?
I just played it cool. Right? And that's." Act like you've been there, right?
Yes.
You've heard that since you've been a little, since you've been in sports at 8 years old. Act like you've been there.
Right. Yeah, there's just this goes just in so many different directions. I mean, I've been to those networking meetings. I've been the guest at the BNIs, and you come in, and there's a bunch of people who are literally trying as hard as they can to go out there and do what they feel they need to be doing. And I applaud that effort because for every one of those, there's 50 who are just thinking that they can open up a business, put a sign on the door, say open, and people are just going to walk in. So I applaud the responsibility and the actions that they're taking toward actually trying to grow something. At the same time, it's like, whoa, how long are you planning to do this? Are you going out of business in 4 weeks? Like, is this a pop-up, or are you trying to grab as many people as you possibly can? Is this your food truck, or are you trying to actually build something here? So I get the urgency. That's fine. But, I've always said, bees, dogs, and customers can smell fear, and they can smell that desperation coming from a mile away. And if you appreciate Jerry Maguire references, I don't know why that one continues to come up all the time for me, but, just if you can really understand where that's coming from, you're going to go a lot longer. You're going to go a lot farther with this.
There was the first Don't Be That Guy. I was at a trade show, and a gentleman approached me, and so what do you do? And I made the mistake of doing the 60-second elevator pitch, which I'll never do to anyone again as long as I live.
60 seconds. Does anybody know how long 60 seconds actually
it's an eternity.
is?
I didn't know I was 24, I think, or 25, and I'm rambling on and on and on. And I see this gloss stare. He glossed right from the minute I said hi. And he goes, well, I sell, and he jumped right into his pitch. And then he calls me the next day, and he says, so did you close any business from that trade show? And I go, well, sir, I sell solutions, right? Oh, this isn't I'm not selling Tootsie Rolls and American flags, toothpicks, And he's like, well, if you use my solution, you would. I'm like, no, I don't think so. I don't think you get, you didn't even bother to find out what I did. Just asking that one probing question.
Right.
You just jumped right into it. So that was, and when I do the impression of 90% of the people know exactly who I'm talking about. He's not in sales anymore.
Right.
He completely got out.
Yeah.
He just got, he was just bad.
Yeah. It is alarming how many bad salespeople there are out there. And I think it's because, and I know Christie agrees with me, I think there's a lot of people who are trained poorly. But, Bob, you've told me stories in the past of how you were the one in the back of the room during the sales training classes just calling bullshit.
Yeah, that was we went through Sandler training. Can I say that word in this podcast?
I didn't say
it. When I was working for Dell, they hired a Sandler guy. And he said, hey, we're all grown adults. If there's something you don't like, just yell bullshit, and we'll talk about it. I was up to 17 by lunch. And the VP was like, keep hitting him. He just kind of laughed, and he goes, we're trying to get something out of this, but, keep hitting him.
Right.
And it was really poorly, everything was poor about it. There's no way I'm going to act like that, because it's kind of like, you're going to walk away from a girl at the bar, and then she's going to meet another guy. And she's going to, a month into their, honeymoon, she's going to go, I really wish I would have talked to that one guy at the Royal Oak Brewery on last November, right? And that's the guy made you think, like, walking away from this business, and they're going to go buy from Cisco, and they go, I really should have worked, I should have called Dell. Like, it doesn't work like that. Like, there's nothing humanly and then he played the Joker clip. Like, don't ever give what you want, don't ever don't ever give away. How'd the line go? Well, don't ever work for free, or don't ever, whatever you're good at, don't do it for free. Oh. However, he's like, yeah, exactly. Don't ever tell anybody anything unless they're paying. And I'm like, well, you can't do that either. How are you going to sell your solution?
That's just not how it's done so much anymore. And, I think I was talking to somebody else about this just yesterday. You intuitively, as human beings, right? We've all built relationships. We've all made friends. Some of us have gotten people to actually marry us and, consider spending the rest of their lives with us. Did we ever take an approach out of a can to approach those kinds of relationships?
No.
Almost never. Some people try and they don't do very well, right? So why is selling any different? Why do we act differently, intuitively speaking, than we would out of some system that came out of a book that maybe worked one time? Or when you try to distill so many experiences, so many customer experiences into one thing that becomes easily reproducible, we're losing the nuance that is selling.
I'll tell this story probably to the day I die. The best salesman I ever encountered was a Volkswagen salesman. I'm not kidding either. And this goes to the crux of our profession. I said, I want the CC. I basically said, hey, I lost my company car with HP. I'm working at Dell. I need a car. I love the CC. Right then, he could have wrote the PO and got me out. He goes, what do you do for a living? Sales guy. Get Midwest or state Midwest. You get mileage? Yeah. Because the TDI gets 50 miles a gallon. He goes, which one is that? I go, it looks just like the CC, you know, it's a little bit roomier, and you get double the gas mileage. And I just made you a lot of money. And I said, yeah, give me that one.
Yeah.
Right? And I just bought another one from him because, you know, he asked that extra question.
Yeah.
And that's when I was at Cisco, my job was business transformation. And my job was to ask that next question, right? Yes, you're buying hardware. Thank you for your purchase. I really appreciate it. Let's talk about depreciation cycles. Let's talk about life cycle management. Let's talk about, you know, CapEx, OpEx, right? Asking that one additional question to be business relevant, right? And then you're that rock star then. You're not just a guy that sold a box with holes in it, right? You actually made a difference in my business. And I think that's what everybody forgets is asking that one extra question.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to turn the table just a little bit, if we can. I'd like to talk a little bit more about the IT and the D podcast. You guys have had a huge run of celebrities that have come through the podcast. Why did you decide to follow the Comic-Con?
So Dave and I met about 20 years ago where I tried to sell him crap.
Did you ask the extra question? That's what I need to know.
Yeah, would you like to have a beer sometime? That was it. Would you like to have a beer sometime? And he was on a web hosting list, and I didn't know there was just one server, and that was his sandbox. But we ended up having a beer, and our commonality was sci-fi and comics. And we started going to cons together, like before IT and the D even was a thing. And that was our bond. So it's like the IT and the D show. Yeah, we're talking tech scene in Detroit, but we're also what do IT guys talk about at the bar? That was the theme we finally ended up hitting on. Is what hit the record button at the bar. You know, it sounds kind of arrogant that we base our show off of that, but at the end of the day, that's what it was. Like, you know, it's kind of like when you listen to sports talk, and every once in a while they talk about food. You know, you can't just talk tech. We did a whole segment last night on Star Wars, arguing Rogue One. Why Darth Vader didn't use the Force and pull the hard drive out of the guy's hand when he did to the gun to the guys earlier. Right, it would have ruined the whole movie.
That's why.
Exactly. No, but it's what do we talk about at the bar? That was the theme. So, you know, booze and movies and sci-fi and comics. So, you know, we were at Motor City Comic-Con. We go to Great Lakes Comic-Con. We go to Fantasticon. You know, and we got, you know, friends with all the comic book artists, and half of them are here recording. So it's kind of it's funny how this all works out.
Yeah, no kidding. I didn't have a chance to listen to a ton, but I did catch a part of the Kelly LeBrock episode.
Oh my God!
It was like it was like teen geek excitement in that room. You could just hear what everybody was talking about, and they were upset that she wasn't actually showing up. She was just on the phone.
We did get to meet her. And she's absolutely striking. And she's like 60 years old or 61 or something. And we're like,
wow, is she really?
Yeah, we were like, you know, you were on our show. Like, just totally like total little kids.
That's
and,
awesome.
We were the same way with the pink Power Ranger. She's like, hey, thank you for interviewing on our show, Pink Power Ranger. You know, like we're such clowns. But I think, you know, that was the one compliment or the one thing people say over and over is that you guys are just genuine. We're not trying to force it. We're not trying to force anything. Like last night on our 200th episode, Ming Chen called in, who's from Comic Book Men with Kevin Smith on AMC after Walking Dead, and chatted for a half an hour on all the stuff, you know, he's doing and what we're doing. And we built that friendship off of having a table at Fantasticon, and he was a guest there, and we took him and Mike Zapsik out for drinks, and took Ming down to Cass Corridor because he likes dive bars. Oh. And like now we're like, you know, he wants us to go out to Red Bank and be on the show. It's, you know, from getting that's
awesome.
It's funny. I got to bring this up because this is mind blowing to me. That brought up a great point. Like just having microphones on our table got us access to all this stuff that we normally wouldn't. We just did a live podcast from Converged, which is a big IT security geek hacker-thon. They do all the capture the flag stuff. if I would have had I work for a company called Securonics right now. If I had a Securonics booth, no one's talking to me. I put up four microphones on the table. I'm talking to like 13 CISOs, Chief Information Security Officers, about their business. And all of a sudden, it's like, so afterwards, we're having such a good time. What do you do? I'm a sales puke.
Yeah, I'm that guy you've been ignoring for the last 6 months.
The CISO for Diebold, it was
Will you return my call now?
Yeah. No, the CISO for Diebold, the ATM company, that's the first thing I go, I'm a sales puke. He's like, oh, man, I was just starting to like you, But it's amazing the access that you get from having a stupid microphone on your table. Mind-blowing to me.
Yeah. Christie, we need to add that to the business plan immediately.
Yes, absolutely. I'm game. No problem. Well, and I love that, and it's obvious that authenticity just follows you throughout all of the side projects that you have, because I don't think you can call this just one side project anymore. But that authenticity is what makes people want to buy from you or want to hear a little bit more.
Well, it's not canned, it's not garbage, it's not BS, it's genuine, and you know what? It's not forced. That's the other thing. I mean, if you're just going to be yourself, if you act like you've been there before, if you act like you're not in a hurry, trying to force something that maybe if you just gave it time to grow would turn into something amazing. And yes, you have microphones on the table in front of you, but not just any schlep with a microphone can throw one up there and attract people to come in too. So I mean, there's a little bit of momentum that certainly builds, and Christie and I can definitely attest that it takes a couple of podcasts under your belt before you really feel comfortable doing it in front of people. And
I won't listen to the first 10.
Right.
The first one is the most painful. Was the most exhilarating, exciting, worst night of my life. Like I didn't sleep that night because it was so euphoric.
Right.
But at the same token, I won't listen to it. There's no way. I'm friends with Larry Henry from WWJ. Mm-hmm. He's like the voice of NASCAR, MIS, and all that.
Yeah.
And I tried to be Larry Henry in the intro, and thought I was. And I'm like, oh my God, that sounded so stupid and pushed and canned. It's like, just talk normal, It's seriously though. We don't, when we speak and stuff on podcasting, and we write everything about podcasting, the first thing we say is we're not experts or gurus. We don't know what we're talking about. We really don't. We've just failed so many times that we can give you our lessons learned. And that's a big thing with me is people that, if we don't like you, we'll call you out in a second. Like if you say you're an expert or a mastermind, what are you talking mastermind of what? So again, I think that's, I did a rant last night on slow roll. I really shouldn't have, but people are like, hey, I appreciate the honesty. Like not too many people like go that far out on the limb.
Right. And that's so many things there. We could talk about this for hours. But you and I have.
Yeah, right.
But, there's a couple things that we ask really, every guest that we have on. And although I joked earlier in the episode that Christie was our guest because she was the one calling in, Bob, what would you say is your why? I mean, why do you do all this?
Because I can.
That is the shortest answer to that question we've had in 30 episodes.
No, it's true. I have a really hard time. If I don't, it won't happen, right? And I'm going to, my entire life, if we don't have our big Christmas party at the end of the year, and catered and, DJ and all that, there's not going to happen. If I don't, if we didn't do, I DJ on the side, side gear. If someone has a grad party for a friend of mine, like I'll DJ, just, don't worry about it.
Right.
Did I have, could I have stayed home and watched movies? Yeah. But you know what? I can. So why not? Why don't I? Father's Day picnic's coming up at the German Club. I want to play polkas, because I can. It's one of those. It's one of those things where I just feel like I should. And everyone's like, "Oh my God, you're so busy," and I'm not. Like I have a lot of downtime. I really do. That's I'm going on a tangent here, but that's the crux of this whole thing. Like, why not do a podcast?
Right.
What else am I going to do? Am I going to, 7 years old, remember that one time I went bowling? No, you know what I mean? It's just like, this is are the job fairs we do and the networking events and all the people that have found work and the 1,000 people that got retrained and have employment on this town. Because what? We called a bar and said we're showing up?
Right.
You know? It doesn't take much. That's the thing that I don't think people get. Like, oh my God, Bob, thank you for organizing the 20th high school reunion. Oh, it's so amazing. I called the bar and said we're showing up. You know,
the bar we all went to when we were in high school, but didn't tell anybody.
Right. The fake. But like, I didn't organize anything. I just call, and it just, I don't know if it's natural to me, or if, you know, my dad and my grandpa were both the mayors of the neighborhood. You know, hanging out at the gas station, talking to the mechanics, and you know, I don't know if that's where I get it all from, but it's not. It always just was normal to me to do. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense.
It does.
It comes through.
I think it really speaks to the passion that you have for IT and the D and Podcast Detroit, and I think there's a lot that people can learn from your experience too.
And what I'm going to say, and this is the most important part, I'm great at ideas and saying we should. If Dave wasn't around, none of this would be done. So find yourself a geek and make friends with them.
Absolutely, everybody needs a partner.
No, but like, you know, we're a good team because we're the yin and yang. We both kind of need each other for, you know. I couldn't do the executions. Like, he's masterful at it, and I'm awful at it, right? But like, you know, the ideas and stuff, those are all like conceptual, like big Mile High stuff. That, you know, I came up with it and he went and did it. But that has to happen. Like, you can't have two sales guys running IT in the D. You can't have two geeks running IT in the D, right? You need the sales guy and the, you know, again, for the crowd too. Like, hey, those are your people. You talk to them. Hey, the business guy's here. You talk to them. You know what I mean?
Right.
You feel, you know, it's that commonality. But yeah, you definitely need a balance, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, he's a Sith and I'm a Jedi, you know, or vice versa.
Yeah. Depends on who you're asking.
Gotta ask. Yeah, the Force needs to be balanced, right?
So how can our listeners get a hold of you?
So itandthed.com. That's where all the things are. Bob Waltenspiel. You don't bother spelling it. But IT and the D, where all our stuff's there. You can subscribe to our podcast. You can follow us. You can go to LinkedIn and join the group if you're in IT. Follow us. We don't Twitter much because we don't get it.
Yeah, me neither.
It's like we call it. Speaking of Game of Thrones, we call Twitter the Game of Thrones of the internet. 140 characters, and I have no idea what's happening. It's you know, we're big on our Facebook page is like Star Wars memes. You know, we try to separate. We're real big on separating social.
Okay.
So just follow us where it's appropriate.
Got it. Yeah, that's Twitter's one of those things where just when I think I have it figured out, everything changes, and it's like, okay.
Yep.
Do I have 140? Do I not have 140 characters? Do I have more? What counts? What doesn't? I just had 450 followers yesterday. Now I have 410, but then tomorrow I'll have 460. It doesn't make any sense. So
Nothing does.
That's cool. Well, thanks for being with us, Bob. This is
Appreciate it.
this
Yeah.
is awesome.
Yes, Bob, thank you so much, and thanks for hosting us at your studio, and hopefully we'll get an opportunity to record there again.
Christie, go ahead, Bob.
No, I absolutely look forward to it.
Christie, sounds like Bob knows his why.
Yes, I think so.
Because when you know your why, your hows and your whats get much better.
That's right.
Don't ever say that in my studio again.
All right, we're cutting there.